Hello, everyone. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Ace Ramirez, coming to you from Washington, D.C. It's Wednesday, May 12, 2021. We have updates from our correspondents across North America. Eliza Gonzalez Manglikma tells us about a new program of Homeland Security against domestic violent extremism. Joanne B. Soriano updates us on the Big Apple's preparations for its big reopening. Thomas likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
The anti-mask people have started to cover their faces.
May Ann Manzano Guerzon in Sicklerville, New Jersey.
New Jersey to expand vaccination to kids as young as 12 upon CDC approval.
Myla Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Mobile vaccine clinic for Pennsylvania farm workers.
Randy Bayuga in Pearisburg reports about Ohio lifting state health orders on June 2nd. Julian Fiesta in Delano, California.
Los Angeles to receive emergency housing vouchers from the American Rescue Plan.
Michael Hudson in Seattle reports on students re-entering schools in Washington state not being required to get the COVID vaccine. Jessica Isidro in Austin reports about Texas celebrating Small Business and Economic Development Week. And for tonight's Roundtable, big ideas for small business. Our coverage begins now. Relentless rocket fire and rioting in mixed Jewish-Arab towns fuel growing fears that violence between Israel and Palestinians that has claimed 55 lives could spiral into full-scale war. Israel's army says Palestinian militants have launched more than 1,000 rockets since Monday. Israel's army has launched hundreds of airstrikes on Hamas and other Islamist groups in the crowded coastal enclave of Gaza. The most intense hostilities in 7 years have killed at least 48 people in Gaza, including 14 children, 2 Palestinians in the West Bank, and 5 Israelis, triggered by weekend unrest at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. As world powers voice growing alarm and the UN Security Council ready for another emergency meeting on the bloody crisis, the UN Middle East envoy Tor Wennesland warns that this is escalating towards a full-scale war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declares a state of emergency in the mixed Jewish-Arab-Israeli city of Lod, where police say wide-scale riots erupted among some of the Arab residents. There are fears of widening civil unrest as protesters waving Palestinian flags, burn cars and properties, clash with Israeli police, and attack Jewish motorists in several Jewish-Arab towns across Israel. Meanwhile, back here in the U.S., during a briefing at the White House, Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm says there should be no cost for hoarding gasoline, as a ransomware attack Friday on Colonial pipeline forced the company to shut down its entire network. Granholm says price gouging will not be tolerated and that there is no reason, none at all, to hoard gasoline.
So in short, we're looking at every option we have across the federal government and all of the agencies. And in the meantime, I do want to say this, that we expect that gas station owners are and should act responsibly. We will have no tolerance for price gouging, but the American people can feel assured that this administration is working with the company to get it resumed as soon as possible. And as one other warning, I guess, let me emphasize that much as there was no cause for, say, hoarding toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic, there should be no cause for hoarding gasoline, especially in light of the fact that the pipeline should be substantially operational by the end of this week and over the weekend. So,
Granholm tells reporters some areas may feel a supply crunch as Colonial fully resumes. Colonial Pipeline, operator of the largest fuel conduit system in the country, sends gasoline and jet fuel from the Gulf Coast of Texas to the populous East Coast through 5,500 miles of ducts that serve 50 million consumers. The company said it expects to have the pipeline network fully up and running by the end of the week. In other news, the U.S. Capitol, a few months ago, was a site of what many consider domestic terrorism. A short distance away from it is the Nebraska Avenue complex of the Department of Homeland Security, from where information about the agency's latest strategy in fighting violent extremism has just been released. EBC's Eliza Gonzalez-Manglikmot is on site with this report.
The Department of Homeland Security is taking another step in its fight against terrorism, this time by focusing its efforts on combating domestic violent extremism. Now, the DHS is doing this by establishing a new Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships, or what is being called CP3. Now, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandra N. Mayorkas announced the formation of CP3 on Tuesday, May 11th. Mayorkas says CP3 will help build local prevention frameworks to provide communities with the tools they need to combat terrorism and targeted violence. He further says individuals who may be radicalizing or have radicalized to violence typically exhibit behaviors that are recognizable to many but are best understood by those closest to them, such as friends, family, and classmates. The center looks to communities and friends and family members of individuals who show a tendency of being radicalized to speak up and help prevent potential domestic terrorism acts. CP3 aims to empower communities and individuals to be resilient to violent messaging and recruitment. One way it plans to do this is by addressing early risk factors that can lead to radicalization to violence. The newly formed center not only aims to prevent attacks, such as the assault on the U.S. Capitol, but also attacks on schools, workplaces, and public gatherings. In addition to CP3, Secretary Mayorkas announces a new dedicated domestic terrorism branch within the department's Office of Intelligence and Analysis, or I&A. The branch will focus on producing sound, timely intelligence needed to combat threats posed by domestic terrorism and targeted violence. The creation of CP3 and the I&A Domestic Terrorism Branch are the latest actions DHS is taking to comprehensively battle domestic violent extremism, including violent white supremacy. While Manar Wahid, ACLU Senior Legislative and Advocacy Counsel, agrees with the need to fighting white supremacist violence, Wahid criticizes the formation of CP3. Wahid says despite promises to end violent extremism programs that were ineffective, discriminatory, and harmful to Muslims and communities of color, President Biden's administration appears to be expanding these efforts and simply renaming them. CP3 replaces the targeted violence and terrorism prevention created during the Trump administration. Today, Secretary Mayorkas is scheduled to meet with lawmakers alongside Attorney General Merrick Garland to discuss their efforts to combat domestic terrorism. In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez-Manglikmot, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
For today's COVID-19 numbers, according to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday, May 12th, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now over 159,784,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S., over 32.7 million, India has over 23.3 million, and Brazil with over 15.2 million. To date, more than 3,320,000 have succumbed to this virus. The U.S. leads the countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths with over 582,000. Brazil is next with over 425,000, and India has over 254,000. And now for COVID news. The Independent Panel for Pandemic Preparedness and Response, or IPPPR, says that after the huge shock of the COVID-19 pandemic, now is the time for prevention and response systems to be reformed. The panel concludes that the catastrophic scale of the COVID-19 pandemic could have been prevented, but a toxic cocktail of dithering and poor coordination means the warning signs went unheeded. The panel further states that a series of bad decisions mean COVID-19 went on to kill at least 3.3 million people so far and devastate the global economy. In its long-awaited final report, the IPPPR says institutions failed to protect people and science-denying leaders eroded public trust in health interventions. The panel says early responses to the outbreak detected in Wuhan, China in December 2019 lacked urgency, with February 2020 a costly lost month as countries failed to heed the alarm. To tackle the current pandemic, it calls on the richest countries to donate 1 billion vaccine doses to the poorest. Moving forward, the panel also calls on the world's wealthiest nations to fund new organizations dedicated to preparing for the next pandemic. Michelle Kazachkan, former director of the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, says now is the time for countries, rich or poor, to work together.
Les pays riches comme les pays pauvres ont été affectés. Et donc, si dans ces conditions-là, le monde ne se reprend pas en disant « travaillons ensemble » à ce que cela ne puisse plus se reproduire, alors que faut-il encore attendre, n'est-ce pas? Dans notre rapport, nous disons « if not now, then when » n'est-ce pas?
Kazachkan is one of the 11 members of the panel set up to evaluate the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Big Apple is living up to its name by going big in its reopening, from Broadway to dining to subway to libraries. To tell us more, New York Bureau Chief Joanne B. Soriano files this report.
New York City is in the process of reopening in a big way. The statewide 7-day average positivity rate has declined for 37 straight days, with the positivity rate for New York City dropping to 0.86%, the first time under 1% since October 14th. Warmer temperatures are bringing more people out of their homes, onto the sidewalks and into parks, restaurants, and businesses, bringing life back to the city that never sleeps. First up, the lights of Broadway are turning back on after going dark at the start of the pandemic. Governor Cuomo announced that the show will go on, beginning September 14th. Tickets are on sale now for popular shows like Hamilton, Wicked, Aladdin, and The Lion King. Theaters will be at 100% capacity in accordance with state health and safety guidelines. Restaurant owners who have had to deal with constantly changing regulations were able to open their indoor dining to 75% capacity last week. The midnight curfew for food and beverage service will be lifted on May 17th for outdoor dining areas and on May 31st for indoor dining. Subway service will resume 24-hour service starting May 17. New York City Transit is currently closed from 2 to 4 a.m. daily for disinfection. Last Friday, the MTA recorded 2.23 million subway riders, the most on a single day since the pandemic began. Mask use remains mandatory on MTA subways and buses. More good news for bookworms as well. 14 locations in the Queens Public Library system moved from only to-go service to Stage 2 of the reopening plan. These branches will now allow customers to browse the book collections, access reference services, and utilize computers and printers. Tourists are also returning to the Big Apple. Domestic travelers arriving in New York no longer have to quarantine for 14 days. Visitors should monitor their symptoms for 14 days and contact a public health authority or their health provider if symptoms develop. Stay tuned as New York City continues to shift its focus on safely rebuilding the economy in this new normal. In New York, Joanne Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you.
When we come back, updates from Edmonton, Alberta, and New Jersey. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Ace Ramirez in Washington, D.C. Remember those individuals who used to strongly refuse to mask wearing? Well, it seems like they had a change of heart. These individuals have become adamant in wearing masks, but for reasons far from protecting against COVID. Bureau Chief Thomas Leitner tells us what moves this group into now using face coverings. Thomas.
Thanks, Ace. Oh, the irony of it all, you know. Like you were saying, for more than a year now, the conspiracy theorists, the COVID deniers, the anti-vaxxers, they've been holding anti-mask rallies saying public health measures, that's just another attempt by the government to control us, control the population. Now these same people are masking up and keeping their distance. Why do they suddenly think they need protection? What are they afraid of? Well, they say they need protection from people who have been vaccinated. That's right. Apparently, we're a danger to the population, and it's because of vaccine shedding. This is the latest myth that's circulating on the internet and social media, you know, that fountain of misinformation. And this is what these misguided folks believe. They think a person who's been vaccinated can somehow shed a spike protein created by the shot. You know, it's kind of much like my German Shepherd dog when he was alive. He used to shed hair all over the house and on anyone he came into close contact with. It's kind of the same idea. These folks believe this spike protein will cause all kinds of health problems, including miscarriages and sterility in women. And they believe this can happen just by standing close to a vaccinated person. In response, some of these COVID deniers now have started wearing masks and they're physically distancing themselves from immunized people to protect themselves. And, you know, it's kind of ironic when for months they've been arguing these measures don't really work at all. So in their mind, the actual virus is still a hoax, not dangerous. It's just the shedding of that spiked protein following vaccination that causes harm. You know, in British Columbia, there's a store owner in the city of Colonial has actually banned people who have been vaccinated from his premises. He just doesn't want them around. This latest myth, though, has been debunked by fact checkers worldwide, but the claims still circulate on social media. You know, and if a friend shared it with you, it's got to be true, right? You know, we may get a good laugh from all of this, this latest myth, but the sad reality is it undermines people's confidence in the vaccine, and it persuades those who are ambivalent about being immunized, who are just a little bit hesitant. It persuades them to forego the shot, and that just prolongs the pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas High Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Thank you, Thomas. I can't help but smile at the report, but pardon my ignorance. But you see, this is the first time I've heard about what do you call it? Oh.
It's vaccine shedding. You're shedding this spiked protein that apparently your body produces to immunize you, and I guess it spreads like dog hair or something.
It sounded like a person being exposed to radiation, you know, with the a couple of things that you mentioned there causing sterility and
miscarriages, amongst other things. And I mean, there's people who even believe that the vaccine has trackers in it so that they can keep track of where they're going. And quite frankly, Homeland Security would fall asleep with boredom tracking my whereabouts. I mean, I don't do anything interesting.
Well, the big question here is, why do these far out theories gain traction among some people?
Well, people want security, something they can hold on to. They want some sort of explanation for what's happening, what's not in their control. And in the case of COVID-19, for many people, a simple explanation offers them more comfort than trying to understand the science behind the pandemic. So if they have a scapegoat or something they can blame it on, at least there's a degree of security in their own mind. It makes sense. And some of these myths have been perpetuated by political leaders. A former American president comes to mind. Also, the president of Brazil. He's not too sold on the seriousness of COVID and the need to have public health restrictions. And these people, unfortunately, their beliefs have gained a lot of traction, have gained a lot of followers. Now, many anti-vaxxers believe the government's encouraging immunization is simply tyranny, a way to track us, and the government is just taking away our freedom. Did you know that anti-vaccine groups on Facebook, they have 17 million people subscribing to them? And again, we're never going to change the minds of the hardcore, but it's the influence they have on the group of people who are undecided about vaccines. That's what's worrisome. And it's the actions of this undecided group that could mean the difference between achieving herd immunity of the population or just having a population that's still susceptible to widespread COVID-19. And that's the danger of all this tinfoil hat stuff, Ace.
That's right. I still get to talk to a couple of people who still don't believe in the vaccine, despite the proof that is being laid out by the government in the news, and the slowly reopening of the economy.
Well, I just look at what's happening in the United States right now. You're reopening all over the place. Your case numbers are down. The number of people being immunized is up. I mean, to me, it makes sense that the vaccine must be doing something.
Right. Well, maybe it is proof, or more proof, a greater proof, that is what these people are looking for.
Or just a simple explanation where we can blame it on somebody and move on. And throughout the ages, people have done it, whether it's economic difficulties, the Second World War, Nazi Germany. A lot of stuff was blamed on people of Jewish descent simply because people thought they controlled the economy. And that sentiment still is there today. Again, people want to blame something and then they can say it's not my fault. It makes sense.
Well,
even though it doesn't.
Myth is a myth. All right. Thank you so much, Thomas Likeness. Edmonton, Alberta.
You take care.
You as well. In New Jersey, as soon as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention approves use of the Pfizer COVID vaccine on kids as young as 12 years old, the state of New Jersey will expand its inoculation program. In Sicklerville, EBC's May-Ann Manzano-Guerzon has the details. May-Ann.
Thank you, Ace. According to a report from NJ.com, Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine could get Federal Centers for Disease Control approval as early as Wednesday to be administered to kids as young as 12 years old. That would expand New Jersey's eligible group. Governor Murphy urged parents to get kids vaccinated, with supply now outpacing demand and many sites accepting walk-ins. Take a look.
We are awaiting, Judy, I think today's meeting of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, and then the CDC's likely final decision on Pfizer's emergency use authorization for its vaccine in adolescents ages 12 to 15. Should this be approved, every New Jersey resident within this age group will be eligible to receive Pfizer's vaccine wherever it is being administered. As we noted on Monday, this will be a big step forward for public health and in particular for the health of our school communities. And given that many vaccine sites across the state, from our mega sites to local pharmacies, are accepting folks for no appointment walk-up vaccinations, we could quickly expand the number of those being vaccinated against COVID. We also have noted time and again that even though our youngest residents have among the lowest rates of hospitalizations and deaths, they have had among the greatest rates of transmission. So we encourage all parents to talk now with their adolescent children about getting vaccinated, and when the CDC approval is given, to go out and to do so. This will be a big step that will allow for students and educators to feel more confident in being in their classrooms the remainder of this year. And it will set us up for every school to be fully back for in-person instruction in September. It will also be a big part of the overall picture for reopening more fully and more quickly.
Been loosening health restrictions as numbers improve and vaccinations increase. The biggest step so far happened May 19, which is next Wednesday, when the state will increase fixed percentage-based indoor capacity limits on restaurants, stores, personal service, and other businesses, while also removing all outdoor gathering caps. But indoor masking and social distancing rules will remain, with facilities required to keep groups at least 6 feet apart. And for New Jersey's latest COVID-19 numbers, the Department of Health has reported another 925 new positive cases today, bringing our statewide total to 881,635. Sadly, we are also reporting 33 new confirmed deaths, pushing the total to 23,234 fatalities. But on the brighter side, the latest total of fully vaccinated people in New Jersey is now 3,701,759. To know the latest in New Jersey's COVID-19 vaccination progress, visit covid19.nj.gov/vaccine. And Ace, for a quick weather update, it's 10:06 in the evening here in New Jersey, and it's partly cloudy. It is 54 degrees Fahrenheit or 12 degrees Celsius. In Sicklerville, New Jersey, May and Manzano Garzon, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Thank you so much, Mayan. That's exciting. May 19, major reopening of New Jersey. Are you excited?
That's right. That's right, Ace.
Any plans on where to go first? What restaurant to visit?
But we'll probably check out these restaurants that we've been wanting to try, since everything will be, I guess, more safe and comfortable during that time, because restaurants have been preparing for the major reopening on the 19th.
I bet you and 1,000 other people in New Jersey are waiting for this May 19 major reopening. But how is New Jersey preparing for this major reopening?
Well, Ace, as I said, restaurants have been preparing, but Governor Phil Murphy announced in his COVID briefing earlier today that he will sign an executive order for the state to formally move forward with this major reopening, which he called New Jersey's most aggressive steps yet to ease the coronavirus restrictions, because businesses, especially restaurants, again, have been preparing since it was announced more than a week ago, Ace, and well, also churches and businesses and other businesses, gyms and retail businesses, and also ending our outdoor gathering limits that day, though masking and social distancing regulations will remain in place. So personally, and my friends and family, we would go out more and try restaurants more, but we will keep in mind to always still put on our mask and to keep our social distance. Ace?
That's great. That's great. These restrictions, the easing of the restrictions, it's a form of reassuring the public, and it's positive, especially for the economy of every state, nation. All right. So enjoy May 19.
Thank you.
All right. Be safe, Mayan. All right.
You too.
Up next, updates from Pennsylvania, Ohio, California, and Washington State. Eagle News America will return shortly.
cool. Everything is wonderful. Everything is lovely. A lovely day.
Ako po si Francis DP. Abangan niyo po ako sa Letters in Music this coming Sunday, May 16 from 1 to 2 p.m. Only here on Net25. See you guys.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Ace Ramirez in Washington, D.C. Expanding reach of its COVID vaccination program, Pennsylvania makes available mobile clinics to its farm workers. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan reports. Myla.
That's right, Ace. Agriculture Secretary Russell Redding and Governor's Advisory Commission for Latino Affairs Executive Director Luz Colon today visited a vaccine clinic at Giorgio Mushrooms in Berks County, where more than 600 farm workers received their second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. The clinic was available through a mobile vaccine and testing unit operated in partnership by the Latino Connection and Highmark Blue Shield. In August 2020, a unique partnership between the Pennsylvania Department of Health, Latino Connection, and Highmark Blue Shield initiated a first-of-its-kind mobile community accessible testing and education, or CATE, to strategically reach underserved diverse populations and meet their COVID-19 testing needs. Now, it's used to administer COVID-19 vaccinations in coordination with community partners. So far, more than 1,500 agricultural and migrant farm workers have been successfully vaccinated through the CATE mobile unit. Pennsylvania is home to more than 60,000 farm workers, both citizen and migrant, who work to ensure Pennsylvania's farms run efficiently and produce food to feed the nation. Pennsylvania's mushroom industry leads the nation in production, with nearly 60% of all mushroom production occurring in Southeast Pennsylvania. The industry supports nearly 9,000 jobs and contributes $1.1 billion to the economy. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Pennsylvania's nation-leading mushroom industry stepped up to the plate to both feed America and keep their workers safe. These farm workers became eligible for vaccine as part of the Commonwealth's expanded special initiative to vaccinate frontline workers. Essential workers who get the COVID-19 vaccine are protecting themselves, their family, their co-workers, and their community. In addition to this, farm workers who choose to protect their health with the vaccine are also protecting the availability and accessibility of food. Right now, Ace in Swarthmore is 62 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 degrees Celsius with clear skies. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbulan, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Thank you so much, Myla. I understand you had your second jab. Is it Pfizer today?
Yesterday, it was Pfizer, yes. It's a second dose I had yesterday morning.
How do you feel?
I feel like I have 50 pounds. My arm is like 50 pounds right now. I don't have any other side effects except that it feels sore and heavy right now.
Well, was it the same thing after your first shot?
No, actually, I didn't feel. I mean, it's just a little bit sore on the first dose, but this one is really different. I even tried to go to the store around lunchtime, and I kind of feel like lightheaded as well. I don't know because I haven't eaten my lunch yet, but my husband said it's also one of the common side effects for the second dose.
I see. All right. Well, take care of yourself, okay? But so how's the vaccination situation in Pennsylvania?
So as of today, Wednesday morning, Pennsylvania has administered first doses of vaccine to 53% of its entire population. And the state ranks 10th among all 50 states for first doses administered by percentage of population. Also, 46.2% of Pennsylvanians age 18 or older are fully vaccinated. And Pennsylvania ranks fifth among all 50 states for total doses administered. To date, Pennsylvania have administered 9,381,098 doses total throughout May 12. The first single dose is about 5,713,000, and the second dose is about 3,600,000. And our percent positivity rate right now is 6.6%. So we're getting there. Ace?
That's good news. Just a little sacrifice, a little pain on your shoulder, and that's a huge step to achieving herd immunity.
Exactly. Yes, we're hoping, just like New Jersey, that Pennsylvania will also reopen soon. And I've heard almost the same as New Jersey that most of the restaurants will be open 100% in a couple of weeks. Ace?
Thank you so much. Myla Simbulan, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio says the state's pandemic health orders will end on June 2nd. This story and more from Eagle News correspondent Rani Bayuga.
Thank you, Ace. Today, Governor Mike DeWine addressed the entire state of Ohio and updated the status of the coronavirus pandemic fight. And he announced that by June 2, all pandemic health orders will be removed, except for those in nursing homes and assisted living facilities.
In his speech earlier this evening, Governor Mike DeWine was very happy. Ohio, as a whole, has done very well compared to its neighboring states. According to the CDC study, Ohio shows at 71.2 case per 100,000 residents. This is clearly lower than its neighboring states. Ohio is showing to be trending down in the last 2 weeks at 123 cases per 100,000 residents. This is coming close to where the governor has targeted at 50 per 100,000 cases. Ohio is also progressing in its vaccination efforts, now at 4,893,766 Ohioans vaccinated. That is 41.87%. Ohio now has 1,087,182 confirmed cases of COVID-19. In the last 24 hours, 1,449 were added. Deaths at 19,441. In the last 24 hours, 0 were added. In the last 21 days, 19 were added. Governor Mike DeWine was very happy, and he applauded how Ohioans have stepped up and sacrificed to get to where we are today. He continues to encourage everyone to get vaccinated, as they are now the only ones who will be susceptible to the virus.
Lastly, it appears that the Pfizer vaccine will now also be approved for those ages 12 and above, and vaccinations can begin starting tomorrow. Perrysburg, Ohio, Ronnie Bayuga, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Thank you, Rani. According to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, or LAHSA, in 2020, there have been 41,290 people experiencing homelessness in the city of LA. In an effort to address the rise of unhoused individuals in the city, more than 3,300 housing vouchers will be granted to Los Angeles. Where will these vouchers come from? In Delano, Eagle News correspondent Julian Festa has the details. Julian.
Thank you, Ace. The city of Los Angeles will be the recipient of 3,295 emergency housing vouchers from the American Rescue Plan. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti states, "The American Rescue Plan is doing exactly what was promised, helping our hardest hit families, workers, and communities recover from this pandemic, get back to work, find a roof over their heads, and begin the road to a stronger tomorrow." As a city already making heroic investments in solving the twin crises of homelessness and housing insecurity, Los Angeles is ready to put these vouchers to work, bringing our unhoused neighbors indoors and forging a fairer, more just, and equitable future for every Angelino. The Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles, or HACLA, will be given these emergency housing vouchers. With almost 3,300 vouchers, the funding is considered the second largest allotment of funding from this plan in the nation, which would immensely assist Los Angeles, the second largest city in the US with a population of almost 4 million people. Doug Guthrie, President and CEO of HACLA, states, "We are honored to receive the second largest allocation in the country. These vouchers will be a great help to Los Angeles residents who have been impacted by the pandemic and are now facing housing instability." HACLA is prepared to get these out to Angelinos in need. This allotment of vouchers will give Los Angeles the financial resources needed to combat the growing homelessness crisis in the city and housing assistance to Angelinos and families who are and at risk of being homeless, including those fleeing from various forms of violence. In Delano, California, Julian Fiesta, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Thank you, Julian. I like that. Begin the road to a stronger tomorrow. That's nice. With 66,000 unhoused individuals in LA County, what is the share of housing vouchers from the American Rescue Plan?
So the County of Los Angeles also has their allocation and will be receiving 1,964 emergency housing vouchers, and this will be handled by the Los Angeles County Development Authority, or LACDA. There are a total of 70,000 vouchers that will be distributed to public housing authorities throughout the U.S. So this is a win-win situation for Los Angeles, as we are among the top 4 in the number of emergency housing vouchers allocated in both the city and county levels. Ace?
Definitely a win-win situation and very timely indeed. Thank you so much, Julian Fiesta, Delano, California. Although the state of Washington does not require students re-entering its schools to get vaccinated against COVID, state officials continue campaigning that families get that jab. In Seattle, Eagle News correspondent Michael Hudson reports.
Thanks a lot. Right now in Washington state, there are currently 419,000 positive COVID-19 cases with 5,637 deaths. As of yesterday, Washington officials who oversee the immunization policies for schools around the state will not consider it a requirement to have a COVID-19 vaccine for all of the students until a vaccine is fully approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. According to Washington State Secretary of Health, Dr. Umair Shah, and I quote, "The FDA on Monday signed off on emergency use of the Pfizer vaccine in 12 to 15-year-olds, opening a new chapter in the nation's vaccine rollout. More than 370,000 Washington teens and adolescents are in this age group. Teens 16 and up are already eligible, but immunization, younger and adolescents and teenagers could be critical to returning to some sense of normality in schools nationwide," and I end quote. The vaccines that are heavily being used right now, Pfizer and Moderna, were approved in a streamlined process by the FDA. Though there is no official requirement for the students to get vaccinated before re-entering their schools, the state officials will continue to encourage all the families to get vaccinated to ensure that everyone is covered. Shaw continues with, and I quote, "We do believe that schools are safe for in-person learning now, but vaccinating this younger age group would help ensure the state can help protect our kids in schools." Reporting from Seattle, I'm Michael Hudson, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you.
Thank you, Michael. Up next, a report from Texas in tonight's Roundtable, if we have time, about big ideas for small businesses. Eagle News America will be right back.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
Welcome back. This is Eagle News America. I'm Ace Ramirez in Washington, D.C. May 9 to 15 is officially Small Business Week in Texas. This week is also the state's Economic Development Week. Let's find out from Eagle News correspondent Jessica Isidro how the Lone Star State is celebrating.
Thank you, Ace, and howdy from the Lone Star State. On Monday, Governor Greg Abbott issued a proclamation officially designating May 9 through 15 Small Business Week in Texas. He invited all Texans to celebrate the special role that over 2.8 million small businesses play in the economic growth of communities throughout the state. This event also coincides with Texas Economic Development Week, in which Governor Abbott released a video statement regarding the dominance of the Lone Star State when it comes to economic growth for the last decade. Let's take a look.
Hi, this is Governor Greg Abbott. This week is Economic Development Week in Texas. This week we come together to celebrate the importance of economic development efforts at the local and regional levels in Texas. There are more than 700 economic development organizations across the state that help drive our economic success and create more jobs for our fellow Texans. Thanks to their work, Texas has led the nation in economic development for 9 years in a row. They've also helped Texas become a national leader in economic recovery in the wake of the pandemic. In Texas, economic development is a team effort. We are grateful for our partnerships with economic development organizations across the state, and we look forward to working with them to keep Texas the premier economic destination in America. Together, we will ensure that every week is Economic Development Week in Texas. Thank you for what you do. May God bless you in your efforts, and may God forever bless the great state of Texas.
Governor Abbott announced that this Thursday, May 13, 2021, a small business webinar titled Starting a Business in Texas will be scheduled from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Additional resources and webinars for aspiring and existing entrepreneurs looking to grow are available through the Office of the Governor by visiting gov.texas.gov. As we celebrate the role small businesses play in our communities, Eagle News spoke to local officials in Corpus Christi at a ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate the opening of a small business. Let's hear what they have to say.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, cut! Small businesses are the backbone of our community. We just had a ribbon cutting ceremony honoring a small business. Another thing is we love to see our small businesses throw and thrive, especially, I'll take it a step further, our minority-owned businesses, woman-owned businesses, military-owned businesses. And what we realize and what we see is that when it comes to small businesses, they're providing a need for our community, but ultimately the money is here local. So by just the way it is, you have friends, you have family that are going to support that business, and it just kind of goes right back.
As you all know, small business is the backbone of the community, backbone of our economy. And in Corpus Christi, we appreciate small business. We know that we depend on them for providing jobs, for providing food on the table for small families. And we want to do everything we can to promote small business development. We want to make sure that we foster an environment where small business can thrive.
Meanwhile, I hope you're staying safe and healthy in your part of the country. And wherever you are, support your local small businesses. In Austin, Texas, I'm Jessica Isidro, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Howdy, Jessica, and thank you. One quick question for you. What are your favorite small businesses that you support there in Texas?
Well, Ace, I really am all about supporting small businesses. There is a local Thai place near my place, and I love food. And I will say, since I've moved to Austin, I've ordered from there more times than I would like to admit. However, I did just get engaged recently, so I'm now on my wedding diet, so no Thai food for a while for me, unfortunately. But another small business I found is on Etsy, and they're actually based out of Houston. And it's called Pretty Robes Shop, and I actually bought some personalized things for my bridesmaids from there. Ace?
That's great news, and congratulations to the engagement. Best wishes to you both. Thank you so much, Jessica Isidro, Austin, Texas. Speaking of small businesses, if you are to build a small business, what would it be? That's our discussion for our roundtable tonight. What big ideas do you have to get started? Let's start with the only thorn among the roses.
I've been a thorn in people's side for years.
Okay, but come on, let's start with you. What small business do you have in mind if you are to start one?
Oh, let's say I had a fair bit of startup capital and this was a fantasy world. I would love nothing better than a small town radio station that served the community, that probably played middle of the road music, nothing too rocky, but nothing too sleepy, that sort of thing. But the big thing is serving the community. Lots of local talk, lots of local news, local sports, that kind of thing. And certainly you need the support of local business in terms of advertisers. In this day and age of podcasts and the internet and everything, people might say, "No, you're nuts." But there are actually small town stations. You can make a decent living out of it. You're not going to be rich. You're going to be independent, locally owned, and not sound like something that's programmed out of Los Angeles or New York, whereas one size fits all. But that would be the dream. That would be the dream, Ace.
That is a great dream, a great idea, and very lucrative too. You know, getting into media as a business is really a money making.
It can be. It can also be, as Cumulus found out, money losing. At one point, they were in bankruptcy.
That is true.
It's all in knowing your market and serving your market. Because if you don't serve your market, why would I want to buy advertising on you? Nobody's listening to you.
That's right. Well, since we're only talking about small businesses, well, we start small and then eventually help make it grow the way we know how to.
Yeah. But not grow too big. I would never want a chain of stations. Just one. That's when it's fun. When it's no longer fun, get out of the business. There's only two reasons you go into business: fun and profit. And if either element is missing, I don't know.
Thomas, you would make a great radio company owner.
I agree to that. Oh, May Ann, since you already and what is your idea of a small business if you are to start one?
Well, definitely not a radio company because I'm not like our Thomas Likeness here. It's like a natural DJ, anchor, newscaster, and all of that. But it's still in the line of public service. For some reason, this pandemic made me want to put up a small school for kids, like the 18-month to 3-year-old kids, probably a Montessori school, because I personally saw the effect on kids, especially this pandemic when they didn't have that much time to go out, to explore, to have time to socialize. So I enrolled my son to this music class with a 30-minute session once a week. And I saw the fun and the improvement in all these kids every single week. So that kind of inspired me to put up a small school for kids where they could just explore, be creative, have fun, and learn at the same time.
I bet. How old is your little one again?
So he's 22 months old. This is like a music class. They teach them music theory, and you would not believe it because my son is 22 months old, and the other two classmates that he has are like more than 2 years old, like a little over 2 years old. And they're learning music theory. They know whole note, half note, eighth note. And I'm like, wow, I'm so impressed. And they're really having fun. So that kind of inspired me to put up a school for kids, ACE.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's hear, thank you so much, Mayan, for sharing that. Let's hear it from Julian. Julian, what's your idea of a small business?
Okay, so the Eagle News family knows that I am not great at cooking. I don't see enough. At the beginning of this pandemic, my sisters and I actually opened a small business making cookies. So we did a bunch of we did ube crinkle cookies, we did pandan cookies, we even did like pumpkin cookies, and shockingly enough, they sold pretty well. We actually did really well with the cookies, but that was when we had a lot of time, right in the beginning of the pandemic, when everyone was baking bread, making that coffee. So it's died down a little bit, but it was a lot of fun for us at the beginning.
That's great.
No.
And we'll be waiting for the samples, Julianne.
They're already in the mail for you guys.
But that is a great idea. If I were to go into business again, I would still go back to putting up a small restaurant, maybe a what do you call that? The food truck, a food truck.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, as always, at the end of every broadcast, we do not forget to recognize the efforts of our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers, and our community small business owners by giving them a round of applause. This is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ace Ramirez. We live in interesting times.